You're listening to the Phatcast, live from the studio with Colin Reynolds.
I've lived in the mosaic, and I walked a pregnant mile, felt the fury of a love to hatred sands. And I've seen a star go out, and I felt self-righteous violence, watched my clothes out in the street as they burned. Now my crutch is just a prop to my dry, relentless cough, and to places too far and out of sight. Like an angry cigarette in the powder-thin rain, I'm just the shadow of a rainbow at night. And I crawled into my cocoon just to come out as a moth. Now I bash my ugly head against the light. And I know it doesn't matter and it doesn't make it right, but I just wanted to be with you tonight. And I've lived in a constellation. I walked down Loretta Street, took a break from my conscience for a while. But the barriers I'd built were made of sodden cards. My resolve just dissolved in your smile. And I promised myself this time I'd do what should be done, but in truth I never really had a plan. And those dirty fingernails paired so perfectly with clean, now the worms have gone and opened their own can. And I crawled into my cocoon just to come out as a moth. Now I bash my ugly head against the light. And it doesn't make a difference, and it doesn't make it right, but I just wanted to be with you tonight. The bougainvillea, the wisteria, and my reused stalks bill perfume the vague recesses of my mind, where the pig dog barks and the pilot howls along, true to form, unnecessarily unkind. Now I've nothing left to offer, but my empty hands are clean. If they stay here, they won't know what I've done. But I drag myself through miles of broken glass just to lie at your feet for all my mornings to come. And I crawled into my cocoon just to come out as a moth. Now I'm flailing at a dirty window pane, and it doesn't make it better and it doesn't make me sane. Words are power, but we live in a hurricane. No, it doesn't make it better and it doesn't make it right, but I just wanted to be with you tonight. Yeah, I just wanted to be with you tonight.
Good afternoon. You are watching or listening to the Phatcast with your host, Colin Reynolds, me, and today my special guest is my good friend, Ryan Garth.
G'day.
How you doing, Ryan?
Oh yeah, getting there.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Yeah, getting there. I'm actually quite happy that today is the nuclear scorching day, like it has been.
True.
For the last 4 or 5 days. I've been, working outside, so it takes its toll on my not sun-friendly
Yeah, fair enough. I've just been staying inside the last few days to avoid that.
I envy that. I would have loved to do that. Okay, so you just played, that was a very interesting instrument there, the bouzouki.
Yeah, Irish bouzouki.
The Irish bouzouki.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly recent invention. It's only in the 60s they started making those, because bouzouki's originally a Greek instrument, but then sometime in the 60s this guy, I always forget his name, but he was from a band called Sweeney's Men.
Okay.
Johnny Moynihan, I think that was his name.
Okay.
He travelled to Greece from Ireland and picked himself up a bouzouki, brought it back, and then sort of introduced it into the Irish music tradition. And then I think it was Donal Lunny a few years later commissioned one that's sort of modified to suit Irish music more so than the traditional Greek ones. But now they're sort of ubiquitous in trad Irish sessions.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, your most recent band, Ragged Hollow, um, is this a trad Irish band?
No, no. So we started the band because it was sort of came out of Craicpot.
Yep.
Craicpot has been going for, I think, 12 years now.
Yep.
And that's mostly the trad Irish songs, but I mean, done in a sort of more modernised or sort of rocked up kind of way.
Yep.
But then when I started writing songs for that band, and I was just sort of writing things a lot darker, a lot more sort of serious, and not really within the Irish tradition, I guess.
Sure.
And so
Of merrymaking?
merrymaking, yeah. There's nothing really merry going on in any of my songs. It's actually very, very bleak. But so Emily and I, for that reason and some others, decided to start this new band called Ragged Hollow. And I think it sort of gives me a lot more freedom to write and play the way that it feels more natural to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this hollow is certainly a trad Irish word in terms you've got foggy is another real common one, but ragged is like this darker edge to the hollow,
For sure.
Not a sleepy hollow.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was it. I was just sort of playing around with words that I liked the sound of, but in the end, what it was is I invented this fictional town in my head that I have a little map of in my head called Ragged Hollow, and all the songs that I write, they take place in this town, and it's just a town entirely populated by people who are fucking miserable, and whether they know it or not, their lives suck for one reason or another. And it was because when I started writing the songs for the album that we're going to release hopefully in a couple of months or so, I initially wanted to sort of tie everything together on a sort of timeline. But then when I got to the point where I'd written a song set in like the 30s and another one set about 10, 20 years from now, I thought, well, that's going to be a bit difficult to keep the same characters going,
Sure.
So then I thought, well, if I can't link everything in a temporal sense, I can link it in a spatial sense. And that's sort of where I got the idea from. And it's sort of, I guess, a songwriting technique for me is to just make up these characters, and I know where they live and what streets they live on.
Like a method acting version of songwriting.
Yeah, I guess so. It's sort of, I feel like my approach is sort of a bit more like how someone writes a novel than writes a song.
Sure.
I think it's a funny one whenever you listen to a song, it's the automatic assumption that person's singing about themselves.
Right.
But when you read a novel, you don't assume that the novelist is writing a fucking autobiography every time,
Yep.
So I guess for me, there's sort of a way of separating myself from the songs. And so if I'm feeling, shit or angry or sad or whatever, somehow displeased with something in my life, instead of writing about myself, I'll invent a character whose life sucks way worse than mine and then just shit on them, just absolutely wreck their life. Sometimes just straight up murder them. Because that's the thing about fictional characters. You can do anything you want to them.
You can.
So I like to think that's what George R.R. Martin does when he's writing Song of Ice and Fire.
He talks about the gardener approach where rather than gardener as opposed to the sculptor. The sculptor, every detail is very deliberate, whereas the gardener sort of plants a seed and the plants grow.
For sure, yeah. It's an interesting idea. I like that.
He's a great author,
He is. I'm sort of a bit concerned for his mental state sometimes, but
you know what they call? How there's that sudden wealth syndrome, where you'll have I don't know, some bogan from out the back of Chigwell or whatever, suddenly has, you hear about it in the UK more often than here, but the story of someone who's never had any money, had a very, working class kind of life or whatever, and then all of a sudden they've won millions of pounds, and they kind of go insane. They spend the money very quickly, and they can't handle this, this sudden wealth syndrome, they call it.
For sure, yeah. I mean, you get that with a lot of those famous musicians or famous singers or whatever who just are suddenly thrust into the limelight and then they end up carrying on like dickheads.
So see, George Martin, so he spent basically his whole life, 6 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day at his typewriter kind of thing. And then suddenly he's gone to appearing on book panels and going to Comic-Con and going to premieres and all of these different kind of activities that, a best-selling writer does. And we're still waiting for Dance of Dragons.
Yeah. No, we're waiting for Winds of Winter.
Yes, the Winds of Winter.
That's the one we're
waiting for. Winds of Winter. We read Dance of Dragons.
Yes.
He left it, and where Dance of Dragons kind of stopped, we actually kind of got to that point on the TV show, around what season? End of season 4?
Season 5.
Season 5, where, John's been stabbed, left for dead.
Yeah, well, spoilers.
If someone hasn't seen Game of Thrones by now, then
They're probably never going to.
that's right. They shouldn't. They should, in benefit of hindsight now, they should not do that. They should read it if they want instead.
Yeah.
But don't expect the sequel to be coming out anytime soon.
No.
He's written some other books though. In the
Yeah, I
meantime.
know. What's he doing? Just get on with Song of Ice and Fire. That's what we want.
You know what? I feel like it's a procrastination thing, like a serious procrastination thing where he's got this monster, this book that's about to come out, and apparently the number of pages it's got is half the rest of the saga we've already read is as big as that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could sometimes get home and just have a look at the kitchen sink and be like, oh God, I'm too intimidated by that mess right now to deal with it. What will I do instead? I'm going to make sure my bed has hospital corners instead.
Sure.
Do anything other than the thing you're supposed to do because it just seems so, ooh.
Yeah. The bigger the task, the harder it is to actually accomplish anything.
Coming out soon-ish, I think, is Song of Ice and Fire TV series.
Oh, the House of the Dragon one?
Yeah, based on the 300 years earlier, the
the
invasion of Westeros by the...
No, it's a lot further forward than that. It's about the reign of King Viserys, I think. But I thought it was strange that they weren't starting from Aegon the Conqueror. But
yeah, why wouldn't we start from Aegon?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't have the budget for the dragons.
Actually, you know what? That's one very good reason. Another, I think, good reason is because we've already got that story anyway. Even though we haven't had the details of it, we know what happened. We know where the conflicts were. We know who overcame in those conflicts.
I love how everybody talks about A Song of Ice and Fire as though it's history. You know,
sure,
the TV show, that's just an adaptation, but the books, that's actual history. That really happened.
There's this guy. What's his name? Elias. Who I forget his last name, but he's like, if George R. Martin was Batman, this guy's Robin. Okay, in terms of handling his social media presence, contributing to some of his books, like he made an encyclopedia called The World of Ice and Fire.
Oh yeah.
It has maps and a lot of the great fan art that people have done and commissioned artworks, and lots of number crunching calculations. And Elias is like this guy who's got out the calculator and figured out that the Reach was a lot like regional France, and figured out which towns have what population and all of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that there are people so much more interested in it than George is himself.
That's the way to put it, isn't it? Dedicated though.
True.
So yes, on your George, hopefully we'll see some books. Maybe someone else will finish them one day.
Yeah, I reckon that's probably
Wheel of Time scenario.
Yeah.
So you read any good books lately?
No, because I just read The Name of the Wind and the sequel to it, and I just absolutely hated the main character.
Wow.
I don't know whether, have you read them?
No.
It's like they're good stories, and it's very engaging. But I don't know whether Patrick Rothfuss, the author, has done it on purpose or not. But the main protagonist is just the most punchably insufferable wanker, and I don't know whether he's meant to be like that or whether Patrick Rothfuss doesn't have any social skills. Yeah. I don't know, and so it just really shits me.
So whether or not he's written like that or he's acted like that, either way, just as punchable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's it. So, yeah. I didn't get up on those, but I had to finish it, and that's another one that people have been waiting for a long time for the next book.
Sure.
So yeah.
So
I don't know if I'll bother waiting for it.
Well, that Squid Game, right? Okay, the main character. So he is like a Korean. He's a Korean. He's like a Korean George Clooney type actor in his other roles, right?
Sure.
So having him as like this plucky, down on his luck, kind of, that was kind of strange for that actor in the first place. They chose him because they wanted they wanted him to be likable. They wanted to be able to have this character have plenty of awful qualities, but for us to still like him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that worked well.
I do. It did.
Not having seen that actor in anything else, I don't have a lot to go on there, but
for sure.
But that is how he came across. Yeah, like I found him very dislikable at first, but I thought that was sort of part of the character arc, isn't it?
Right. Robs his mum to go gambling. Yeah.
Yeah, not cool.
No, not cool. And I mean, that's still perhaps a bit more culturally relevant than Game of Thrones in terms of if you've seen it or not. So I won't spoil that one. People go and watch Squid Game if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, and then decide what fucked you up more, the marble episode of Squid Game or the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a poll I want to make. Which was more heartbreaking out of those two?
That's rough. I mean, I think I can talk about moments without making any too much sort of spoiler. But okay, so our main character's face when he realizes that perhaps he can mislead the other guy. Yeah, okay, that was a cruncher, that one right there.
Yeah.
Then, how about his childhood friend, who is he's the responsible adult voice of reason in their kind of little group of people.
Yeah.
He's like the one they all look to, the leader of the group. When, like, the switcheroo.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Devastating. Because, the guy that got switcherooed, everyone loved him.
Yeah.
Like, what's not to love?
He was the most sympathetic character, yeah.
Yeah. And then, what was the name? Sebyok, the girl of the group.
The North Korean
one.
Yeah, she was great. She was probably my favourite character, I reckon.
She's probably most people's favourite character, like throughout the consistency and she had a great arc too.
Yeah.
And what happened in that episode between her and the other girl, up until now, she's been essentially completely ice cold. We've seen her sympathetic side when she, talks to her brother and such, but she's had to be this really hard-edged kind of person to survive in the world. Yeah. And then it's like she finally can kind of let her guard down a little bit, but it makes it's just even more heartbreaking that happened.
Yeah, that was a good season. I reckon they sort of set it up for a season 2, but I don't think they should.
Yes, I think if what you're getting at is, well, firstly, it was written to be like a standalone. There's no idea for season 2 from the author originally, but it seems like definitely in the last episode, they're like, right, here's a hook for season 2.
Yeah, exactly. Which I didn't like that.
I didn't think it needed it.
Same.
Yeah, it's like we've already told this story. What a great series, though. Oh, and this is funny. There's a small handful of people I've spoken to who said they hated it.
Yeah, right.
My first question to them, they've given me the same answer every time. Did you see the sub or the dub?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you know what you're talking about. Watch the sub.
Yeah.
Watch the sub.
I can't stand watching things dubbed. It drives me insane.
Dubbed is awful.
Just watching people's mouths move and the wrong sound is coming out. That alone drives me insane. So I can't watch anything.
Like cartoons, you can kind of get away with it.
For sure, yeah, cartoons, yeah.
But live action, forget it.
Yeah, no. Although I did put myself through, I think, the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones dubbed into German because I was studying German and I didn't want to study. I just wanted to watch Game of Thrones, so I figured I bought the German DVDs and watched them all dubbed. And I learned some really useful German phrases, so I know now how to tell someone to slit someone's throat in German. So that came in really handy on my exams.
Yeah. How do you say winter is coming? Do you know that one?
I guess it's just Winter kommt.
Yeah.
I can't even remember now. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I just spent 4 years studying German, but as soon as someone says, how do you say this in German?
Yeah, so I'm not meaning to put you on the spot there. Okay, so you played the bouzouki, but you actually play a few instruments. Tell us about the other instruments that you play.
Well, yeah.
Obviously, you play the guitar.
Yeah, I mean, most people play guitar, don't they?
Right.
Well, there's instruments. There's playing instruments and there's playing them well. I'd say instruments that
You're
are...
a fair hand on the guitar.
Yeah, well, no, I'll go all right. But I think as far as instruments that I would feel comfortable performing on, I'd say I can play about, I don't know, a dozen or so. But the truth is, like, there's only 12 notes. I mean, in the Western system of music,
Yes, yeah.
there's only 12 notes, and they're the same 12 notes on every instrument, whether it's a bouzouki or a bassoon. All you got to do is find out where they live and put your fingers there, away you go.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It all becomes the same after a while. So I don't really know exactly how many instruments I can play, but I'm guessing about a dozen. I know on this album I played 12.
Yep.
So
So some of these are pretty unusual. Now, I'm guessing one of these, you played the uilleann pipes?
yeah.
Yep. So for the audience, can you explain what the uilleann pipes are?
So they're a type of bagpipe. The thing is, when you say bagpipes, people just automatically think you mean those noisy Scottish things that the blokes in kilts wear. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Highland pipes. So those are Scottish Highland pipes, or war pipes. And obviously they're the most common. But there are literally dozens, if not hundreds, of different types of bagpipes all over Europe, the Middle East, Northern Africa, Asia.
All you need is a pipe and a bag for it to be a bagpipe, right?
Yeah, and it's a pretty sort of simple bit of logic. Just, I can't do everything with my lungs, so put it in a bag. So the uilleann pipes are an Irish one. Uilleann is the Irish word for of or pertaining to the elbow, I believe. I don't know why we don't have a word for that in English.
Right.
It's so useful. But it's called that because you use it... You
Squeeze with your elbow.
Yeah, you have a bellows under one arm and a bag under the other rather than having to use your lungs at all.
Right.
So it keeps the air dry so the reed lasts longer and stays in tune. And I guess that's the thing with uilleann pipes. They're a lot sweeter and more mournful and they fit better with other instruments.
And a lower register too. Like you can get some lower register notes out of that.
That's true. And they do come in lower sets as well. So the standard set, so what I play is D, that's the standard. But all the really good players will play C or B flat.
Sure.
And when you get a good B flat set, I've played a Harrington B flat set. Harrington is basically the Stradivarius of uilleann pipes.
Yep.
And it's amazing, but it's huge. I mean, my hands are quite little, so I could barely reach the holes, but it's an amazing instrument. But when people ask me what uilleann pipes are, I try to explain if you don't know what they are. I always say, have you seen Braveheart? Because even though that movie is set in Scotland, all the score is done on uilleann pipes because it just sounds nicer than Scottish pipes for that sort of thing. So, a movie made by an Australian American about Scotland scored by Irish pipes. I mean, Mel Gibson is renowned for his cultural sensitivity. But yeah, the thing we did on the album with the pipes is because there was a song in particular I wanted to play the pipes on, but the song's in C and my pipes are in D. And because it's a diatonic instrument, you just don't have the accidentals. And so, so I got cast to pitch shift the backing track up, and I played along, and then pitch shift the pipes down to fit with the original track.
Brilliant.
And it actually came off all right. I don't know if you can tell in the recordings, but yeah.
Well, from a D to a C, you're on. That's
it's only a tone.
Yeah. Oh, no. I realise that, but I'm just thinking in terms of percentages, it's like an 8%, right? Difference in terms of the pitch frequency.
I guess I don't know. I don't know numbers.
Right. Well, it's a very small timbral shift.
Yeah. It's only a tone.
Yeah. Just Mel Gibson and his cultural sensitivity. It's funny, like you remember, of course, the phone calls. The phone calls meaning, I think they were engaged. I don't think they were married, but he's become attached to maybe French, some European model, and she had starting off a singing career, and she perhaps wasn't the most competent. And so he's throwing all this money into trying to jumpstart her musical career.
Yeah.
And whatever happened between them, he found her to be not sufficiently grateful. So he's and she's basically said, "Look, I don't care. See you later. I'm going." Right.
Yeah.
And then there's a series of maybe 5 to 6 phone calls of Mel calling up getting the answering machine and just going ham.
Yeah, he's a bit of a loose cannon, but he's made some good films. I mean,
He has.
I thought Apocalypto was stunning.
His best film.
Yeah.
His best film because it has the least amount of dialogue.
Yeah, even The Passion of the Christ was done well. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but it was well done.
I enjoyed it when they beat up Jesus. Yeah, no, that was a. I mean, I think it's hard to kind of watch that without. I mean, like obviously, well, I'm not a Christian. No, you're not either. If you were a Christian and you believed like in Jesus and that sort of stuff, that must be a completely different experience for someone like that watching that movie.
Yeah, I reckon so. It'd be a lot more confronting, maybe. Because if you really believe that person is the Son of God and therefore the best thing that there is, then seeing them brutalized in that way would be a lot more harrowing, I guess.
There must be some too who are like particularly attached to their spirituality, like it's part of their identity and such, where they might see it as like blasphemous. That someone's.
I think there was a bit of outcry about it from certain corners of the Christian world, but I don't know.
But Gibson was certainly trying to promote religion himself with the movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've mentioned Braveheart, obviously, which, even though that character is utterly ridiculous, it's a great movie. It's a great romantic movie.
For sure.
The story of the hero who never gives up and in the worst odds, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's been called the most historically inaccurate film ever made. And it is. I mean, the Battle of Stirling Bridge, they decided to do that not on a bridge. And, the whole bit about him shagging the French princess, well, she was like 6 at the time, so I really hope that didn't happen.
Yep.
Yeah. That was all a bit silly and unnecessary. And why didn't they cast someone tall to play Edward Longshanks? I mean, he's called Longshanks for a reason. Why not cast a tall actor? I don't even know who that actor was. But also, why not cast maybe anyone who's Scottish to play the Scottish characters?
They had God, what's his name? That big redheaded dude.
Yeah.
That actor. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Brendan someone?
Pull it up, Jamie.
He's got the same surname as the kid who played Joffrey. Gleeson. Brendan Gleeson. That's it.
Ah, yes, brilliant.
There you go.
Nice association there. But he's gold in whatever he's in.
Yeah, but he's actually Irish.
Yes.
I mean, he did a pretty good job with Scottish accent, but yeah.
I loved him in Gangs of New York.
Yeah, I've not seen that.
Great in that.
Have you seen The Guard?
The Guard.
Yeah.
No.
That's his best movie, as far as I'm concerned. It's brilliant. Definitely look it up. The
I'll have
Guard.
to watch that. He was also in a recent Tom Cruise movie called... It's actually got 2 titles. One of the titles is Edge of Tomorrow. And I think the other title is, because different regions, difficult at different thing.
Yeah.
One of is like Live, Die, Repeat.
Oh.
But yeah, no, it's about a recruiter who becomes a soldier who gets caught into an ephemeral time loop.
Right.
And Brendan Gleeson plays his superior officer. But he's the perfect asshole in that.
Right. I generally just see a movie has Tom Cruise in it and go, no, I'm not watching that.
Sure.
I just can't stand his face.
Yeah. I get that. It's not a bad movie, but yeah. And what was that other movie he was in? Harry Potter.
Yeah.
He was a professor in Harry Potter.
Yeah. No, he's done a fair bit of stuff. Always in the supporting role, I guess.
Oh, and there's a movie called, is it In Bruges?
Yeah, that was a good one. He was good in that. Yeah, and Calvary, that was another good one with him.
I haven't seen that one.
I felt like Calvary was like a really serious version of The Guard. So The Guard's really entertaining, and Calvary was pretty brutal, like harrowing. I found it quite upsetting, actually.
Right, okay.
But it's good, very good film, yeah.
Well, those ones for the list. Brendan Gleeson, everybody.
Just do a whole show about Brendan Gleeson.
Why not?
The limited knowledge we have on him.
Why not? In any case, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today, Ryan.
No worries, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Take care.
Cool.
Cool.